Welcome back. This is Your Town. I'm Marianne Leffel with the Monterey County Business Council. We got a great show today, and one of my favorite people is going to be on for the next couple of segments. So stay with us and learn all about what AT&T is doing for our community. So Dr. Bettye Saxon, welcome.
Good morning, and thank you very much. And it's probably showing in the afternoon, so I would just say hi. That might be better. Okay.
Yeah, you never know when it might pop up.
Exactly.
Sometimes people email me at midnight going, hey, I just saw your show. That was great. And I'm thinking, who is watching anything at midnight? But anyway, I'm old. I got to get my rest.
Yes.
So Bettye, AT&T is a huge contributor of this to this whole region, really. And you've been here, what, now, 10 years?
Actually, I thought about it yesterday, and I realized I've actually been here for 12 years.
Oh, my goodness.
Yes, I know. As I normally tell people, this was an 18-month assignment that just continued to just grow longer and longer. But it's been a fantastic ride, great journey. One of the reasons that I was sent here was because this region is very important, not only to the state of California, but important to us as well, to AT&T, home of the AT&T Pro-Am. That's just one thing. But we didn't have feet on the street. Corporations' dollars were not coming into this region the way they probably should have been.
Okay.
So one of the things that I needed to do was to identify, what does this community care about? And when I could identify what the community cares about, then I was able to request additional funding in order for us to have more of a presence here within the community, rather than you just see us on your bill or you see us on television, but yet nothing locally. So the foundation, one of the other things I did yesterday was that in looking back over the years that I've been here, that I've brought in over $1 million.
That's incredible.
Yeah, that's been good. That's one of my little bench warmers. That
Well, on behalf of the whole community, I say thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. And just to name a couple of things that we've funded that have just been really important to us, we'll start with the Bettye Institute, public policy, which is also an educational program where they do a lot of outreach towards kids to get high school students more involved and get them ready to start to vote, and so that they can see that they do play a part in democracy. So that one was very near and dear to my heart, not to mention the Monterey Business Council.
Oh,
okay.
But you know, to the Panetta's and your support of what they do, I believe they're a huge economic driver. And so from a business council standpoint, I too support them in my own personal way, and the business council always buys tables and does things. But I think it's so important, and I love that AT&T recognizes that, because not only do they educate young people and teach them about democracy, but for our community, the caliber person that they bring here, the spotlight they put on Monterey County as a place where we do talk about policy and we talk about democracy, that is so important.
Right. And a great leader came from here.
Yes.
That was the first thing I noticed. I was like, Leon Panetta lives here? I'm like, okay, let me rethink this. Maybe I landed more in just tourist town, which is what I initially was like, oh my God, I'm in tourist town. What am I supposed to do here? But living here, I found out there was so much more to this community that you had to offer, that it has just broadened my horizon amazingly. Another one I would like to highlight, the Jazz Festival.
Oh, yes.
The longest running jazz festival there is in the country is here. And so I was able to support them. I've supported them every year. And then there's a host of other charities that we've done. But I want to highlight just one more thing for you, and that's our Aspire program. Now, Aspire was actually created by Randall Stevenson, our CEO. And the whole purpose of Aspire is that we wanted to touch high school students who were not succeeding When we started Aspire, less than 50% of high school students were graduating from high school. And so he said, well, what's going to happen to my next new employee field? You know, where are they going to come from if these guys are not even finishing high school? So we began to target different programs that were in the school systems as well as nonprofits that were working with high school students to tutor them, to make sure that they become equivalent, that they could pass the state exit exams, and of course, then inspire them on to go to college. This program has been very successful. We've given out over $10 million within the last 5 years, and we're slated to give out an additional $10 million. Now, of course, this program is statewide. It's across all 50 states.
Nationwide.
It's nationwide. But here in California alone, we've given out over $1 million. So it's a very successful program. It's not going anywhere, no time soon. Because we still have major concerns about what's happening with the students at the high school level.
So how do you target a school, or does a school find the program? How does it work?
Well, what's happened here locally is that I did some research to find out who was really working in those areas. You see Santa Cruz Mesa program. We funded them, and then there was a local program here that was called the Village Project.
Yes.
That was targeting specifically African American kids who were, their exit scores were far worse than anybody else. So there was a significant need for that African American community. And their numbers are small here, but that doesn't mean that they need to be neglected. So that was one of the other programs. And then my most recent in Aspire was through Junior Achievement and CSUMB. And that's where the students from CSUMB would actually go to the local high schools. And the students from the university would tutor and help those students. And also, it was a one-on-one kind of ratio with a lot of them, which that's what they need.
Yeah.
And that program turned out to be well. So I'm really proud of that, and I'm looking for what we're going to do in 2018. So.
Well, I saw that Seaside High School just came out on the list of one of the 8 greatest opportunity high schools in the nation.
Perfect.
There's an article actually right now that's current in the Herald, and it was announced I think a couple days ago because I picked it up off of the Washington Post broke the news.
Okay.
But it was great. And if you look at some of the changes that have been made in several of our school districts, I think they're really drilling down now to how do we keep these kids in school, how do we exit them so that they can either join the workforce or they can go on to an advanced education. And either one is okay. To me, either one is okay.
Right.
Just don't drop out before the end of 12th grade or finish that and think you've achieved your pinnacle and then go home and sit on the couch.
Right.
So,
right. Exactly. They need to see that there's a larger world
absolutely.
that they can operate in.
Absolutely. So anyway, so thank you. And
so
I
that's
think
the foundation. That's
yeah,
what we're doing.
No, it's great. And I know that you've been instrumental in looking around you and finding opportunities to put AT&T's dollars where they'll make the most impact. So I think that's great.
Yes.
So
well, that's always been
you
the,
have been
the
boots
mission.
on the ground.
Yes, we do. Perfect.
Well, let's talk about something else that's probably hot news, right?
My God, which one is this?
Would this be net neutrality?
Oh, that topic. The topic that never goes away. The topic that started when the internet came into being. This discussion around net neutrality started at least over 15 years ago. And every administration has attempted to put rules and regulations around the internet, but the internet was so vast within itself You couldn't regulate it.
Plus, it changed every single minute.
And it changed the way we operate in our lives. I mean, that was a significant game changer. So every time an administrator, and we can date this back to the Clinton administration, which is what the onset of when the internet came into being, that it was pushed out to the public. It was always with the universities and government. But under the Clinton administration is when it opened up. And you probably had one of those first ones, that's the AOL. You've got mail, right? Okay, so we've been working with regulators from the onset about what we think, which it matters. And then Clinton administration moved, what they put in place was then overturned because the administration changed. So we went to the Bush administration, right? So one of the things that we did acknowledge that the Bush administration did say is like, we need to study this more. We need more time to kind of see how this is evolving before we can really regulate this. So what I'm going to ask and what we're going to put out is that we're going to ask you to keep the internet open. Don't block. Don't throttle. Don't do any of these things that would be potentially harmful to the consumer until we can figure out what's going on. So AT&T was one of the first companies that stepped up and said, we will sign that agreement. So there were agreements that were put in place with the FCC around what was going on with the internet. And so, and we were not a violator of that. So we roll out of the, and it's so important to understand the history of this. And most people are coming to the table now and like, oh, well, don't shut off my internet and I don't want you to block. So when we went into the Obama administration, he took more of a direct approach in trying to regulate the internet. And he actually gave a directive to the FCC. And what we thought was unfair about what the FCC did was that it only touched the providers of the service. It did not reach out to the Googles of the world. It did not apply to Netflix. It didn't what we call over-the-top services. It didn't apply to any of them. It only applied to us. And it's like, we're like, wait a minute. All of this is the internet's business. So what you're going to put here, which is they applied rules from 1930. This is a known fact. Rules from the 1930s, which were rules that the telephone companies had to operate in. So you're going to bring those rules back, dust them off, and then you're going to try to place those rules on this new baby that has just taken off. And so, yes, we went to court, we fought, and we were winning, but we changed administrations.
And here we go again,
and
right?
That's right. So, we like to call this inside of the company Groundhog's Day. Okay, here we are. Now we're back. We're back down to ground zero. So here at ground zero, states have decided, oh, well, if the government can't do what they're supposed to do, then we're going to do it. So state of California, one of our legislators just introduced a bill in an attempt to create regulations. And this bill, what he's requiring is really still not covering what needs to be done. So our president and CEO, once again, Randall Stevenson, and by the way, he'll be out here for the AT&T Pro-Am, said that what we're going to do is we're going to go back to Congress. And we're going to say to Congress, yes, there needs to be an Internet Bill of Rights. And that Congress, it needs to be at that level that they come up with rules that affects the whole gamut, that is fair, that's equitable, and that it still promotes growth and innovation. Some of the states, the things that they're crafting right now, it will not promote innovation. And as you know, a lot of these companies just got started like within the last 5-10 years and are multi-billion-dollar companies. So you don't want to slow that down.
No, and you also don't want to eliminate, because they're not big enough, the next one coming. Because if I read that, it's like if you're the big dog, you got more space, and if you're somebody like me with an idea, you may not get any space because you're just not there yet. So
well, what happened is that you would have to go through regulation to create a space. Whereas today, you can go home and say, I want to start a whole new company, and it's going to be home-based, and it's going to be web-based, internet-based. You can do that, and you don't have to file an application with the FCC or the CPUC or the DOJ, any of these governing bodies. We're like, enough is enough already. There's enough regulations out there. You need to keep this open. And we believe in an open access. We're not trying to shut anybody down. We want you to start that next new business.
Okay, well, hold that thought, because that's important. So,
Okay.
You know, I'm part of the Central Coast Broadband Consortium,
Yes.
as are you, and I think it's really important that as a region, we keep our eye on it and we support good policy going forward. So I really appreciate that you're willing to talk about it and that we can partner on it, because I think that's important. And the Business Council has, to this day, we've supported the AT&T position on this, and I think that's important, because as a small nonprofit, we don't have the resources to go and dig down in depth and study things. And we're fortunate we've got some local talent here through UCSC and through some private practitioners. But sometimes the world according to them is different from maybe the world according to everybody else. So
Correct.
Anyway, I try to study what's in front of me, and I really appreciate that you're willing to put forth the company's position and that we can all take a look at it.
Absolutely. And I also thought that it was so important that we did discuss this, is that there's so much misinformation
Oh yeah, it's
around
always
net neutrality.
yeah. You know, it's about myths and rumors, right?
Yes, yes. So, you know, you gotta pull off those weeds. If I can use an ag term, take the weeds out so you can get a nice plant to grow up, okay?
That's right.
So that's what we're trying to do, is to dispel the rumors and just give you just the plain facts.
Perfect. Perfect. Well, we all use the internet. We all need your products, so that's important.
Yes,
So.
indeed.
Well, don't go away. We'll be back in just a minute. This is Your Town. Lots going on. Thank you.